cord.
Because I haven't already heard this more than once.
Yeah, so you'll see some eye rolls.
That's what made me think of it. Susan's going to yell at me because I rolled my eyes.
So I got in the business in 1993, started, doing all the things that every other realtor does. We didn't have internet and things like that back then. So it was a lot of face-to-face type of lead generation techniques. And then I came up with something geographical farming, and I got into Mill Point. Danielle, if you know Mill Point out near Whitaker and Merritt Road, I ended up getting the first resale in there, and then ended up listing 88 of the first 100 resales. So I started piling up a bunch of listings, right? So there was a time when I had 50 listings at one time. And so what ended up happening was that all this business was coming in. I was having a hard time keeping track of it. And then someone came to me, and I was trying to work with buyers, I was trying to work with sellers, I was trying to, do the transaction part. Again, the only person that had assistants in the office at the time, they shared one assistant between like 6 or 7 people. So an old front desk person that used to work our front desk came to me, and I kind of joked with her saying, hey, she didn't like where she had gone to. And I said, you should come work for me. And it was kind of a joke. I thought, we did not know what a team was or how you structured or anything like that. She came back to me a week later and said, are you serious about that? And I had to think about it and go, yes, I am. So to go through a quick part of this is, so she came on board, she took care of all the the transaction coordinator, started, directing me what to do and everything. And then I started focusing just on the clients of listing and work with buyers. And she took me from, I was doing about 5 million to 7 million when she came on. Within 12 months, I was at 15 million. Within 24 months, we were at 25 million within 2 years. Just from her taking over all the system stuff, implementing systems. And then how I got to a buyer's agent, which we're not going to really go into today, was I had someone in the office that came to me and said, Dave, you're a listing agent. You do all these listings really well. Would you take these 3 listings from me? And I said, only if you take these 5 buyers from me. And so we did that informally. And then getting back to the assistant, we didn't know, do I pay the assistant? Does my company pay the assistant? We had no structure for that. So we had to figure that out. That was also RESPA compliant and compliant with the state. And then the buyer's agent stuff, we did it informally. Then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a second, why don't we formalize this? Why don't you come work for David Mueller at the time, and you handle the buyers, I'll handle the sellers, so I can focus on what I do best. And then, the other 1, and then it became 3 within a couple of weeks. And so I had no intention of forming a team, but it was the best decision I ever made. And so that's kind of how I've gotten into it. So that person actually went on to work with a couple other people because she got pregnant, had a baby, got out of the business, and came back in the business. And then I met Kathy, and again, we'll do a quick story on Kathy because this is funny. So
yes, I knew he was gonna.
I needed to hire a new assistant because she went on, maternity leave. I had someone filling in temporarily, did a really good job, who worked underneath my other assistant. And then I need to hire my primary admin. And now I was already all set to hire somebody, right? I get this email from Kathy saying, hey, I'm flying in from Colorado in the next 24 hours. If you hire anybody else, it'll be the worst mistake you ever made in your real estate career. I got to talk to this person. That sounds just like me. And then, so this is back, what was that? What was that, 2003. So Kathy's been with me for 22 years. Okay. Now my ex-wife fired her because 2 strong women thing, but that's a whole nother story. But we got back together.
The ex-wife too, yeah.
We fired the ex-wife because Kathy was more valuable than the ex-wife. No, jokes. But Kathy and I got back, and that would have been 2010. And Kathy and we were struggling. I was doing like 10 million $8 million where we were doing 30 to 35 million.
Oh, it was 2010 too. So
Yeah, but now we're back to doing 150 to 200 transactions and 50 to 70 million. So the team concept, what we got to really dive into is, are you ready to do it? What are you taking on doing a team? The reasons to do it, because some are financial, but some are, from my standpoint, the number one commodity for me at 60 years of age is time. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And the other part about having a team and leverage is you put everyone in a position where they succeed and put them in a position that where they do that job better than you, and everything just works out. So I tell people I work 24/7, but I only do the parts of the job now that I really love to do. And one of the end goals, and I'll tell you right now, one of the end goals of forming a team is, eventual goal in forming a team is to get out of production and oversee the team. You will want to replace yourself last. And that was just something at this point, don't ever want to get out of production, and I don't ever want to replace myself. I love this job and I enjoy doing it. Now that I only do the parts that I enjoy. So that's the quick, why should you listen to us type of thing and everything like that. Did you want to add anything to the backstory at all?
No, I mean, anything in backstory. It's just a lot. It's a lot. It's been a lot of years, and the trial and error. I mean, if you were with Keller Williams, we did not follow the red book. We're so far not red book. We do some things. I can't tell a lie, but had we known about the red book way back when, we might have done it differently. I don't know that we'd be in any different place. So it's just it's never perfect. It's just got to be better than what you're doing now.
And then the other big thing that we learned at Keller Williams, and Danielle, you'll get is red light, green light.
Yeah.
If you remember red light, green light, it's try something, see how it works, and then if it's working well and it's profitable, keep doing it. But if you're trying something and it doesn't work and you're losing money and things like that, you may not want to do that. And the other aspect of this is that I'm a big advocate of, you need to run your real estate business as a business. It is not a job. It is a business. So everything you do should be a business decision. And full clarity, there's been a couple of years in the past couple of years where I lost money in the business, but it was okay because I had my time. And I also, my team is also a second family where I wanted to take care of them as well. So sometimes the business part, I didn't necessarily treat it as a business, but I treat it as a kind of a business family. So there's different decisions you will have to make. And some people are more geared toward just, it either makes money or doesn't. And that's something we can discuss too. So
we'd be happy to have it make money all the time. But
so let's get into the first thing I want to kind of get into is the 3 reasons why realtors form a team. Okay. So the first one is kind of what I did out of necessity. You have business falling through the cracks. You can't handle the business, and you just got stuff falling through the cracks. And I mean, so you've got a couple of decisions at that point. Either you just let the business go away, or you try to capture the business. And what you want to do as a realtor and as a business owner is you want to focus yourself on the parts of, the 90-10 rule. And this is also why we say be the 10%, which is our philosophy is 10% of realtors are true real estate professionals. They treat their business and run it like a business. 10%. Hey, 71% of all realtors didn't sell a single house last year. The other thing about 90-10 is 10% of what you do will produce 90% of the results. Okay. I can tell you 100%. there's 10% of what I do that produces 90% of the results for the team and for myself. And so what you want to hopefully get to is that you're focusing on that. And the way I look at that too is, so let's say you're doing your own admin, you're doing your own transaction coordinator stuff and everything like that, okay? And let's say you can hire someone to do that for 14 bucks an hour.
He
So they
finally bumped it up from 10.
for 10 to 12 or whatever, yeah. But yeah,
It's 14 in McDonald's.
it was $10 back in 1993. So, but if you can hire someone to do that for $14 an hour and you're doing it yourself, guess what you're working for? You are working for 14 bucks an hour. So don't you agree that what you should do is, if you start having business falling through the cracks, most of that's going to be because you're doing parts of the business that you shouldn't be doing, and that someone else can actually do better than you. And then I can't stand transaction stuff and all that kind of stuff. It's all important, but I can hire somebody that enjoys doing it, and they love just coming in and setting up systems and things like that, where they enjoy it. And so it gets done better. And guess what I get to focus on? I'm not focused on the $14 an hour activities. I'm focused on the $500 an hour activities, which is going out, trying to get listings and buyers. Then eventually it's going to be just listings, right? And then the other part that I am going to say is a mistake is that someone will make this hire for an admin, and then they don't use that extra time to go out and get listings and buyers and stuff like that. They just kind of sit back and they don't take that extra time to lead generate. Okay. So that's the first person. They got all this business. They need to hire someone to come on. Does that make sense though? If you can hire someone for 14 bucks an hour, why wouldn't you, if you have it? And again, the other part is you're going to have the funds, and we'll talk about that as well. The questions you want to ask yourself. The next one is, you want to have more work-life balance and not burn out. So you decide to leverage tasks with admin and buyer's agents. And as you can probably tell, that's where I'm at in my career. Is time is the most valuable commodity that you can have. And so I can spend time with my grandbabies, or I can spend time with my significant other, or I'm one of 12 children, right? This week, my mom's in the emergency room, and so I can go over and hang out with her. Whereas if you're a single agent, to go through and do some of these things makes it very difficult, or your phone's ringing off the hook. You're trying to respond back to emails, things like that. Whereas if you have an admin that can have that go through, and then buyer's agents, things like that, you're able to focus on both business-wise and personal-wise what means most to you. And would I hire somebody and do a red light, green light, and if I didn't make a penny more than what I was making previously, would that be a good financial and business decision for me? For me, yes.
If it got you the
For
time.
me, yes. Yes. For me, yes. For you, probably not. Because you need it. So what we try to say is that hire that you bring on should make 3 times what you're paying. Now, the other aspect of this too is how do you pay them? And we didn't really, put that in there, but so do you
talk about it?
So do you pay them hourly? Do you pay them a salary? My recommendation is to have a sort of payment system where they're getting obviously something every week to 2 weeks, but what you want to do is you also want to incentivize them, right? So if you're doing 20 transactions or 25 transactions on your own, and that you bring in an admin and you're working about the same amount of hours, but you now go from 25 to 50, I believe that the admin should be given a portion of that additional business. That also incentivize them to increase your business as well. And you're also kind of like what Real Broker does with equity, right? With being able to buy stocks in the company. You're buying an equity position in the company. that also gives your administration kind of feeling like they have an ownership interest in the business as well. And so that's come back to bite me a couple times with Kathy, but where there was years when she made more than I did, because I didn't structure it correctly. My suggestion would be to structure it based on profits and not like per transaction.
I probably worked harder too.
Again, that's the other part too, is setting your expectations for your admin, how much they're going to work. Now, what I knew I had to keep her in Kathy was I came to her and I said, you're ready for a raise. Would you like to have this, was it $2 or $4 raise per hour? Or would you like a percentage of each transaction? She said, I want a percentage of each transaction. So that told me she's a business person. She knew she was taking on more risk by doing it that way, but that in the end, well, it hasn't really worked out the past year, but she was taking on more risk, but she would make a higher reward. So higher risk, higher reward. You also want to have people that are within your group in that type of position. So the more the business does, the more they're rewarded. Okay. And then the third reason why people do it is ego. And this is the one, and I see it happen left and right, where people are not ready to form a team. They don't have enough business that's getting, they don't have any business running through the crack. They see everybody else doing a team. And for some reason, our industry glamorizes having a team now. And I'm not sure why that happens. If I had to do it all over again, I would probably have kept it more of a micro team, meaning one admin, a couple buyers agents, and keep it at that. But we grew to 15, probably 15 agents, and I still have 3 admin, which we probably do not need 3 admin, but now we're starting to ramp our business up. But again, I also got to that point where these are people that mean a lot to me, and they're part of the family. So from a business standpoint, there should have probably been made some different decisions made. Now we're starting to do the business again, where we have everything in place. And now the business is starting to roll in where we need all 3.
Can you take a breath?
Well, but so where do you guys think you are in that of those 3 reasons why someone forms a team? Where do you guys think you're at right now? Any answers? Or
For me, I think so. I think it's just me thinking ahead, like in the future, most importantly, my time. I know that I was pretty active in selling, and then I've taken the past year or so off after realizing that my strategy was not working, being on my own and having a few people underneath me, and realizing that if I'm going to continue on this career path, that gotta have a better, more sustainable plan. And the way I was operating before was not sustainable as far as like time. I have a family too, you know. I have a family, and then I also own another business that I've had for a very long time. But I know the route that I was headed, I was burnt out. So that would be my motivation behind even considering building a team. I'm not sure that I'm there yet, but yeah, that's why.
there's always big rocks, and we refer to those as big rocks. And the first big rock you should be doing as a realtor is getting to that point where you have too much business falling through the cracks. And so the first thing you really want to focus on is any type of lead generation. And so we all have to get comfortable with, are we going to cold call? Nowadays, it's tough to cold call because of the do not call list, and now that we got fines coming down. So your best sources of leads are always going to be your database, your center of influence, and then just hitting that. We love open houses and stuff. But so lead generation should always be the first thing you're focusing on. And then when you start getting to a point where, okay, you're being spread too thin and stuff is falling through the cracks, that's when you want to start considering, hiring, that first hire, which we'll get to in a second, is going to be an admin, obviously. because the way that things run very, very smoothly, and believe it or not, I will stop talking when we get to that part because Kathy's all about setting up systems. And when you can set up the systems, and the reason why you want to hire an admin first is going to be is I've seen it happen a million times. Okay, where someone starts getting business, they form a team out of ego, and then they bring on buyer's agents first. Okay, but they have no structure, they have no business structure, they have no systems. And then what ends up happening every single time is the buyer agent comes in, gets frustrated. They were promised leads, they were promised, all the stuff, support, and they didn't get it. And that will only last for about 30 days. And realtors will find out you don't have the structure, you don't have the team concept, and then they'll come over and talk with Kathy and I, right? Where we've got all these systems in place. We've got, on the listing side, we've got the whole thing. These are the steps to a listing. These are the steps for a buyer and things like that. When you get a sales contract, here's the system. And then here's who you communicate with. We got 4 people between us, 100 years of experience that they can come to for advice and things like that. So that's the other part you got to think about too when you're hiring, buyers agents, which isn't really the purview of today, is first of all, are you going to provide leads for them? Or is it just going to be a mentorship type of, and that's usually what most people do. They're just gonna, hey, I'm here to be able to answer your questions. I got some experience. I'm gonna take 30% of your commission. I have a problem.
I can figure that out
So
myself.
yeah. So we've kind of figured out what works with, and I do on Zillow and things like that. We provide leads for our people. We spend $25,000 a month on lead generation. So, but with that, you need to have systems in place, and then you have to have a great CRM, a contact management system, and then you need to have the people behind it that know the CRMs inside and out, and then you need to have the nurturing of the buyer's agents and being available 24/7 for your admin to be able to answer those questions, and setting the expectations of the admin up front. Okay. But you first thing you want to just do is focus on getting as many leads as possible. So you get to that point where, again, you can hand off leads or just to have that structure for your business. In that structure, structure is the most important thing in having systems in place. And that's why the admin's the first hire. So, here's some questions, and I'm gonna have Kathy go over that. Just I'm sure you're sick of hearing me talk. Questions you want to ask before forming a team, and this might be helpful for you as well. In the first one we kind of hit on, but
So I am one of these people. Yeah, I systems, but I've been in sales, which Dave will walk at, for my whole life. So when I get to asking questions, I want you to ask questions too. So not of me necessarily, but yourself. So Dave's talked about, is business falling through the cracks? Can I no longer handle it? My question, and what I pose to you, is if that's true, why are you spending too much time doing rewriting contracts or working on your marketing stuff and not having, why are they falling through the cracks? Or are you just going to your kid's baseball game, which is legitimate also, right? You want that, but figure out, why is this happening? And then, once you figure out why it's happening, then you know how to fix and plug the holes so it's not falling through. You've got to find out, why is this happening first?
and that's part, again, when we say running a business, these are the questions you want to ask yourself, not just before you form a team, but while you're in the team process and things like that. You want to ask these questions, and we have these conversations daily because we have business falling through the cracks. We have leads not being followed up on.
So it's just like working with a buyer or a seller. you want to find the motivation. You want to know their why, right? What is your why on this? Why is this happening? The next thing is, do I have the personality to be able to give an admin the room they need to thrive? Set up expectations. Dave is probably unlike most team leaders who have extremely high control needs and want it done their way. Dave says he doesn't have control needs. He does. I admit to having control needs. So I don't have any problem with that. But can you explain to me what you want me to do? Can you then, once I have a clue, get out of my way?
And I am going to talk on that this because this one's so
Because he
important.
was.
This is one that's so important is because so the first thing is really analyzing your personality. Are you a leader? Are you not a leader? Are you a follower as opposed to a leader? The second one is, do you have high control needs? If you have high control needs and you bring on someone that has high control needs, you're going to butt heads. Now, most people say, in this, we're going to get to this, but I might as well just talk about it now, is if you want to hire someone that complements you, okay? You do not want to hire someone like you. You want to hire someone where their strengths are your weaknesses and vice versa, okay? So in our situation, I do not have high control needs. I will look at everything, and I'm a very quick decision maker. I do not take more than 10 seconds to analyze anything because of experience and things like that. Kathy is much more of a deliberator. Okay.
Process data.
I'll be in the shower and I got 20 things that I got to talk to her about. And she'll say, Dave, shut up. I need a day to think about and process it.
He's been thinking about it already.
Correct.
So that's okay.
Oh, and this is good. This is not a bad thing. Okay.
No.
This is a good thing. And then, so let's get this thing done and I'm gonna throw it up against the wall and see what sticks. She's not that person. Okay. But that's why it works, because she'll analyze things a lot more than I do. I think I know everything and I'm smarter than everybody else. So it's boom, boom, boom. But we always come to the same conclusion. And that's why I love running everything by her, because she thinks about things differently. But we have one thing is that always be a real estate professional. Whatever you do, lead with that North Star that we're going to do things this way. And then everything else will work itself out.
So yeah, there's a lot to. And he loves to tell that story and about my email. And I will say that probably for the first year, I probably wasn't that person. It was a learning, it was constant. I had been in real estate, so I at least understood it. There isn't anybody on our team that's not licensed, by the way. Dave and I are both brokers. We're the state of Michigan brokers for the first 3 years it was open. So we don't do anything on our team with people that aren't licensed. It's just not a safe approach to it. And I can use them for a whole lot more than standing around. I was going to say making copies on the mimeograph machine, but I said that the
Which
other
is
day.
what we did when I started.
Yeah, we did. We had them. So anyway,
I think she makes a great point though. And again, we didn't put that in our notes, is you really should have your first hire and your assistant be licensed. They can do a lot more things. They can talk to people about negotiation and things like that. There's certain things they can't do, and it just will not. It doesn't cost very much and we usually take care of the cost of getting people licensed at first and stuff. But your admin can do a lot more when they're licensed. So
yeah, I've seen people talk a lot about hiring, a virtual assistant, and they're unlicensed, and I didn't quite understand how that could benefit.
depending on what you're going to have them do, it's just very. And with a virtual assistant, you have a plan. You don't say, oh, by the way, today, can you run over here and do this for me? So with virtual assistants, they're, because you're not you're paying them for whatever package you've picked up. They're
Yeah.
gonna do paperwork, they're gonna do stuff. They're not reaching out. Even our title company has a TC that's not licensed, and she can do paperwork. She cannot have conversations on the phone with people. I mean, to this day, I negotiate as many listing contracts not contracts, but sales contracts on our listings as Dave. I mean, we have to do that. We couldn't possibly function without both of us being in that position. So you've got to be able to answer people's questions. You got to be able to tell them, yeah, this is the property and this is the price. Somebody calls me, it's just too important, I think.
And we also have a rule in our group that not every single contract gets at least 2 pairs of eyes on it, and we prefer 3. Okay, so I'm pretty good at writing a contract, right? You would think that I'd be able to do my own. I can do them, but Kathy will see it. Her assistant sees it as well. We have 3 sets of eyes that will go through it, just because sometimes things can get missed. A virtual assistant, they don't know your contracts and stuff. And virtual assistants are good for I shouldn't say menial tasks, but they're not gonna be able to do the bread and butter type stuff, which is communication with your clients. I'd be a little, even my transactions, I'd be a little bit leery of that. I mean, you get what you pay for. Virtual assistants are gonna be less expensive than bringing someone on. You're gonna have a hard time convincing me, though, that having someone local that that gets to know you, because the other aspect of your first hire in your first admin, for me, is that I want to be able to view them as they could run my business someday. And if you can't look at that person and go, this person could run my business someday, I don't think they're the right hire. And that's just it.
And again, it falls back on to where you want to be. Again, over and over and over. What is it you're trying to build? What's your end game there? What's your goal? If you're not trying to build something that big, if you're not trying to build something that you can walk out of, whatever, you'd make different decisions. You pick different people. That's all there is to it. But for me, if it was a virtual assistant in my world, I wouldn't be having them do transactions, maybe paperwork transactions, but heck, get a marketing person, get somebody else, do that part, get somebody to take some of those
social
weird
media
things off
or
your
something like
hands.
that.
Yeah.
But the transactions they're too important. And the easiest way to get business, if you want long-term business, is to give white gloves service to your client. Every step of the transaction is smooth and you're communicating well and things like that. And then, at the closing, making sure everything is copacetic and perfect, because that's the last impression they have. And then if you have a good experience with somebody, that's going to be how you get long-term business. And you get a virtual assistant involved in that, I'd be concerned. And if they don't speak if they don't speak our language as well and things like that, because if you want this business to be long-term, these are things that you got to be cognizant of now. And that's part of being a business person. And one other thing that I will bring up was, so I have to, because the money part is, so I had an ex-wife that said that as an assistant or an admin should not be paid more than $30,000 a year ever. And when they get to that point where they're making that kind of money, which today you couldn't be able to start someone at that, but you should fire them and hire somebody else. I think that couldn't be further from the truth. Okay. A good, again, if I call her an assistant, she'd kick my ass. But she's more of a business partner. And again, we run everything together. So you can use whatever nomenclature you want, but it's invaluable. And she knows me better than anybody else from a business standpoint. She knows how I process things. And when you find someone like that you trust, that you can just, hey, we have an appraisal, didn't appraise. And then the appraisers, we got them go to another lender. And I said, Kathy, would you mind meeting the appraiser there? I'm 6'4", 250 pounds. When I come into an appraiser, sometimes they feel a little like I'm shaking them down. Kathy will go in there with her sugar sweet, Southern type personality and be able, so but that's the great thing about, she compliments me, right? So good cop, bad cop type of thing. So
Yes.
in what I'm telling you, the reason I bring this up is a good assistant or an admin that you can see running your business someday is priceless, is invaluable. So don't cheap out on this hire, and hire someone that's good. And then we got to talk about some of this other stuff
Yeah, I
too.
was trying to get focused
Sorry.
back around here.
The
Did
next
you-
question.
Yeah, I'm looking at your scribble in there. So I mean, you can't be hiring somebody if you don't have the business. So this goes back up. Are you, if you have things that are falling through the cracks, that's great. Do you have enough business? If it's not falling through the cracks, you probably don't. Do you have money? Here's what I want. There's a couple things, and we've learned this the hard way more than one time. You better have a budget and you better have reserves, because it's not just like you starting in this business. You're not doing 10 transactions your first month. You think that admin's going to take you from 2 to 20 transactions in the first month? Nope, but you're still going to pay her. Actually, I know a couple of really good assistants that met. So just and they're great. That's who they are though. So you've got to be able to afford them. You've got to have some funds. And then the other side of the coin is if you're truly letting things fall through the cracks, if you're paying for leads, if you're working your butt off to get these leads, why would you let them fall through the cracks? Can you afford not to have an admin? So it's a tough thing to do, to say, okay, I'm doing this business and now I have to give a chunk away. Right? You know that you pay a cap, you pay transaction fees. You don't like to give away. I mean, I think we decided last night with one of the women in this town that sells only $1 million houses that we make about $250 an hour. But you've got to be able to afford that person, and and yet you can't let it suck you down. So got to have some reserves. You got to have a budget. You got to have a way to pay them that's not going to take you down. So it's last one. If it doesn't increase your productivity, which it can, but like you said, did it buy you time? Time is money, right?
But it still increased my productivity. So
your individual productivity.
yeah, so I did not have to work as hard because I was focusing on the things that I needed to, and I was able to focus on it. And my partner is actually on this call, and a lot of that went, the time that I was spending, doing all the things took away from my family time, and we made a decision to get out of the broker role for that same reason, because I wanted to spend more time with the people that were important to me. And so that is just as important. Like I said, I'm older, younger, when I was younger, I was driven by money and success and being the best I could. My definition of success has changed as I've gotten older. So today my success is taking care of my family, and the people that are important to me, which also includes DMA real estate. So
the last thing, and this is something that you want to really think about if you're going to go past that first step, first admin. And I think once you get your admin trained, you get a licensed assistant, you know what you're doing. You're doing transactions together, you're feeding. Training and mentoring is extremely time consuming. I am our sales manager. I handle everything with the buyer's agents. So that's a huge piece. And it's a 24/7, my call on Sunday afternoon at 8 o'clock, I got highest and best due by 9. Well, what the heck do you wait so long for? Well, because that's what the buyer was doing. The buyer also had a family thing on Saturday. I mean, it's just training, mentoring, knowing what you're going to do with people, how you're going to train people. It's a big commitment. That's all there's to it. And but it is so worth it. It's a really cool thing to do, but it's commitment.
But the thing is that being a high producer does not translate or equal
No.
being a good trainer or a mentor. So just be aware that those two things don't always equate. Okay. So I found out, so I'm a very good producer. Now mentoring, so if you want to take 2 hours to go over a contract and go get that type of training, guess what? I have a hard time with that. If she sends me an email, she'll put what I need to read in the first sentence because I may not read the second, third, and she knows that, right? If you need an hour or two to go over a sales contract, Kathy will sit there with the patience of Job. And so, but that's also recognizing your talents and your weaknesses. Okay. But training and in training, I can teach people how to do it. But if they don't listen to me and do as I kind of tell them, hey, I told you how to do this. This isn't rocket science and things like that. You got to have that patience. And so that's where our different personalities. And the reason I bring this up, we all have different personalities. So be realistic. Do I have the patience to be able to take the time to help train both my admin and then down the road buyers agents how to do the job and set the expectations? Okay. Now, if you do a really good job that first hire, they can help you a lot with that. And you can do the parts of the training and mentoring that you guys figure out that you're going to do well with. Because she'll say in the negotiation, go talk to Dave. Go talk to Dave. And then I'll say, oh, you need to go through the whole contract and figure out what boxes to fill in. Let's have Kathy do that. But that's why that first hire is so important, because if you're, but be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Do I have the patience and the mentality to be able to deal with training and mentoring other people? Okay. Because there's some people that do $100 million on their own because they're type A personalities and no one else will ever do the job as well as they do. So they don't hire anybody. And that might be the better way, because if they had an admin, everyone would kill each other. So, but that's why be honest with yourself.
There's just one comment I want to make. We were talking about being a leader versus
follower?
No, not a follower. Rainmaker. I mean, most teams have a rainmaker, right? The person that's out there generating leads and collecting people, right? Or putting them in. Leader, rainmaker, manager. Good salesperson does not make a good manager. A good rainmaker seldom makes a good manager. And a good rainmaker, maybe 50% of the time, is a good leader. So it takes a lot to learn to be a good leader. There are times when I think I do a halfway decent job, and it's not. It's because people are hard. People are individual. People in this business did not come here to be a follower. They either didn't fit into corporate structure, they got sick of being a teacher. You think about where people come into this business from, and everybody's so different and diverse, and most likely not looking really to be led down a path. They're entrepreneurs. That's why they came to this business. They just happen to land on your team. So you have to deal with a whole different kind of mentality of people. So managing them are easier, leading them, herding cats. So it's an adventure, to say the least. So
so we're going to kind of talk about what type of things you want to look for in that first hire. And we've kind of talked about number one, which is they should have skills that complement yours. but not the same ones. And especially when we talk about like high control needs. So the great thing was that I needed someone to come in, and I'm going to use actually an example of, of a situation where there was a spot after my ex-wife fired Kathy, and I brought someone in, and she was asking me, you know, every time she had a task, she would come to say, you know, is this okay and stuff like that. Finally, I had to sit down and talk with her and say, and I use some profanity too. And I said, look, put earmuffs on because I'm going to use the profanity. Look, this is your fucking office. You need to run this office like it is your own. You do not need to come to me and have me micromanage you and tell you, give you approval on this. You just need to take this over. This is your BITCH. I want you to run it as such. Got it? She needed that permission. She now is an executive at Google. She needed that permission. So sometimes people have it within them, but they need you to bring it out of them as well. So really, really smart, but she had to keep asking me, and it's finally like, you know, no, you run this office. You can run me too. You're running this. This is your baby. And when I gave her that permission, she flew. So, yeah, I love this one.
I'm not sure smarter is the word.
I would say smarter in the areas that you are not. So
It's not smarter. I prefer it. I don't like it. You can do everything I do.
here's one of my favorite sayings. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Period. End of story. Okay. So what you want to surround yourself with are very smart people, very competent people, people that are part of the 10%. I mean, and if you do that, every single person that I've hired for an admin role, it's been a life event. It's the only reason they've taken off, right? We've had people with us forever because we treat them well. We put them in positions where they can excel. They enjoy their job. And I jokingly refer Susan's gonna get mad at me on this. I refer to ourselves as the island of misfit toys. Okay. We all have gifts, but they're all unique gifts. And if we went out there as one person and sold real estate, we'd probably do it pretty well. But as a collective team, we do it at the highest level you can possibly do it. Does that make sense? So if you bring in the right pieces and you put them in positions for them to excel, and everyone is focusing on the part that they excel in and that they also enjoy, that will create a conducive atmosphere and environment for success. It can't do anything but. But as individuals, it's kind of like the old Pistons when they brought Vinnie Johnson in, who is the microwave. But you know, it's the teams that have one star, or you can't have a team of 5 stars. There has to be one star. There has to be a rebounder, assist person, a ball handler, and they all complement each other. And together they win in NBA championship. Teams that have 3 stars on them and stuff like that rarely will ever win because they can't figure out who's going to be the person that's going to score the points. So you want to have complementation. You want to talk about this? You want me to do that?
Well, we kind of already did. I just hate the term cul-de-sac talent.
So this is huge. So we talked about, so I use the term no cul-de-sac talent. That's actually a Keller Williams term also. So what cul-de-sac talent is you tell someone a task to do
and you never,
and they do that job, right? But they won't go and look for other things to do. They'll just do that job, come back to you and say, okay, I got that job done. What do you want me to do next? Okay. And then this goes on. No. A good admin should actually be directing you. So they should be telling you, Dave, this and how to run your systems and your processes more efficiently. So if they come in and and the mousetrap, is not perfect, and they want to fix systems and processes, that's wonderful, because again, there's always improvements to be made. Now, if someone just comes in and they just do the bare minimum that you ask them to do, that is not a hire that you want to make. I would ask, and I'd also ask the question, where do you see yourself in 2 or 3 years? And what I want to hear, Dave, I'm running your show. I'm running this show. I'm directing people. We're at 4 times, we're doing 4 times the business that we're doing today. And I'm running the place. You're doing the things that you need to be. You're where you need to be productive. That person is directing you. And when they start talking like that, these are people you want to take seriously. So many people just want a job, just to pay the bills. Some people want a business to run, and they want to be around other people that are like them. And you can sense that. But the first thing is that they need to be good people. They need to be genuine. They need to be good people. The second thing, they need to be smart and intelligent. And there's book smart and there's street smart. Okay. And you can just tell someone that they're articulate, they understand things, they've got bright eyes, and you can tell. And we've been doing this long enough where we can tell pretty quickly. And I will tell you, like when we hire buyer's agents, I've had hundreds of buyer's agents cross my desk or the table, and we'll say, okay, this is not rocket science. We are going to provide you with all these leads. All you really need to do is pick up the phone, because we're going to have your phone ringing. It's not anything where they need to prospect new leads. We've got their phone ringing. And I said, if you're not successful in this environment, not to mention you've got 4 admin that are available 24/7 to help you, and you've got all these leads coming in, you've got Follow-Up Boss as a database, or excuse me, a CRM. We've got all the top tools. We've got office space. We got everything. The only reason you'll be not successful is because of you. That you're talking right now, and they all say, oh, absolutely, I'm going to do this, and not a problem, and 100%, you can count on me. I'm going to be making $200,000. 97 out of 100 are bullshit. Okay, they don't do it, and I can't explain it. I can't explain it. So your job as the team leader is to try to find the people that are first as the admin. Again, get someone that's very, very competent. Set up your systems so that when you bring in that buyer's agent, which will be the next hire after that, the systems are already in place. And you decide whether you're going to be giving them leads or not. But what you're giving them is a couple different things. One is you're giving them a structure, because the things that most realtors don't have are 2. One is leads, the other one is structure, and the other one is mentorship and training and all that kind of good stuff. There's a lot of companies out there that say that they do a good job with that, and Keller Williams is one of those. But the problem I have with Keller Williams is they've got people that have sold 100 houses doing the training and the mentoring and all that kind of stuff. Whereas the people that come to work for us, they've got people that have sold 5,500 homes that are in the middle of it doing it today. Who would you rather learn from? Okay. Who's going to have that practical hands-on experience? But we've also got the systems where it's almost plug and play. They come in, all they have to do is answer the phone and go show houses. We'll help them with the contracts and everything. And even if they're too busy showing houses, we'll help them contract. We may even write the contract for them, right? They're doing the things that they need to do, but they need leads, they need structure, they need mentorship. And so, do you have the structure to bring on other agents in your organization? That admin's going to help you do all that. So, and in the other part that we just said, hire slowly, fire quickly. That's another red light, green light. if you bring someone on, like we do with buyers agents, and we, you know, they seem like really good people, and then they just come in and they don't do a darn thing, let them go. It's not going to change. Let them go. It's not going to change. And same thing with a hire. If you bring that person on and they're constantly coming to you after 2 or 3 months and they're not kind of leading you or starting to design, you know, systems, etc. As long as you gave them the correct expectations up front, and it's not really improving your business and the communication, you can feel it in your gut. Do not continue it. Let them go. Hire somebody else. And that the hardest part is admitting I effed up. I hired the wrong person, but the wrong person in your organization, I don't care if it's the first hire or the 31st, you hire someone that is not competent or is toxic. It's that a toxic person. And a lot of times they're your top producers. They're not worth it. And if you build your culture and look at Real Broker, when I joined, it was 2,100 agents. Okay. We were agents like 20, we were the first agents in Michigan. We just went over 30,000. And I can sit here and tell you that the culture and the core values are as intact today as they were back in 2021. So I use that also for the same type of blueprint for your team. You need to keep that culture, integrity above all, and just keeping your reputation. And so hire slowly, fire quickly. But then eventually what the goal is for most people that form a team is to be able to replace themselves. And so all you're basically doing is doing the day-to-day stuff. And Real Broker is really great because you have multiple streams of income. So you can do attraction, you can do production, you can do stock equity, and you can do other types of situation. You have other types of revenue streams where you can eventually not have to open doors. But that should be the eventual goal for most. I had to reassess that, and I will never get out of production. And I've finally came this year, I've come to that conclusion that I will never get out of production because I like it too much. And I've been looking for someone to replace me now for 10 years and have not come across anybody that would be able to replace me. That's not ego driven at all. If someone can't walk in the door and be able to convert a listing the same as I can, I'm not going to hire that person to replace me. So I know we went through a bunch, questions that you have, any questions about forming a team or about our experiences or anything like that. Did you find any of this informative?
I don't have any questions that I can think of because you guys shared so much and it was so valuable. I have a ton to think about, definitely recognize some gaps or some alternatives to even like building a team. So no,
100%.
it was very helpful.
And then the other thing too is that we're always available 24/7. So just if you come across questions after you have, like Kathy will percolate for days, and then she'll come up with questions and stuff. If you come across anything, feel free to reach out to us directly too. You can get through Work Vivo, all of our email addresses and things like that. I don't even post them on these chats anymore because if you just Google David Mueller or Kathy Fourier, you'll have all of it right there. And Work Vivo and Real is really trying to get the agents going through Work Vivo to communicate. But we're available 24/7 to help. We are one big family here at Real Broker, and that's one of the big differences between Real and other companies is that we are all here to help each other out. We're all in this together. There's no silos or any of that kind of stuff. We want everyone to succeed. We is bigger than I. All right. Well,
All right.
thanks for everybody. Anything else you want to add, Kathy?
Nope, not at all.
Well, thank you everybody for joining and have a great day. Okay.
Thank you.
Next week.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.